First contact. The stars streaked past the viewport as the UNS Odyssey hurtled through the void at superluminal speeds. Captain Mira Patel stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the holographic display that dominated the room. A pulsing red dot indicated their destination, a star system that had been emitting strange energy signatures for the past several months. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates," said Lieutenant Kai Chen, the ship's navigator. "Dropping out of warp in 3, 2, 1. The streaking stars coalesced into pinpricks of light as the Odyssey decelerated back into normal space. Directly ahead, a massive alien structure hung in the void, its iridescent surface shimmering with strange energies. "My God," whispered Dr. Liam O'Connor, the ship's lead xenobiologist. "It's beautiful." Mira nodded, transfixed by the sight. The structure was unlike anything she had ever seen, a twisting lattice of glowing filaments that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Suddenly, a chime sounded throughout the bridge. "Captain, we're being hailed," said Communications Officer Eva Patel. "It's coming from the structure." Mira took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. This was what they had trained for, the reason the Odyssey had been built. First contact. "On screen," she said, straightening her uniform. The holographic display shimmered and resolved into the image of an alien being. It was vaguely humanoid, with luminous silver skin and eyes that swirled with vibrant colors. When it spoke, its voice was melodic and multi-toned. "Greetings, humans of Earth," it said. "We are the Zelians. We have been observing your species for some time." Mira inclined her head respectfully. "I am Captain Mira Patel of the United Nations Starship Odyssey. We come in peace, seeking to establish diplomatic relations between our peoples." The Zelian made a sound that might have been laughter. "Diplomatic relations? How quaint. Your species has barely begun to scratch the surface of the universe's secrets. What could you possibly offer us?" Mira bristled at the condescension in the alien's tone, but kept her expression neutral. "Humanity has made great strides in the past century," she said. "We have mastered faster-than-light travel, terraformed worlds, and united our people under a common banner." "Child's play," the Zelian said dismissively. "Your so-called mastery of faster-than-light travel is crude and inefficient. Your terraforming efforts are amateurish at best. And as for unity, it makes a sound of contempt. You have no idea what true unity is." Mira clenched her fists, struggling to keep her temper in check. She had expected the Zelians to be advanced, but this level of arrogance was infuriating. "Perhaps you could enlighten us then," she said, forcing a smile. "We are eager to learn from civilizations more advanced than our own." The Zelian's swirling eyes fixed on her, and for a moment, Mira felt like it was staring into her very soul. "Very well," it said at last. "We will allow a small delegation from your ship to come aboard our structure. Consider it a gesture of goodwill." Mira bowed her head in acknowledgement. "Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity." As the view screen went blank, Mira turned to her crew, her expression grim. "All right, people," she said. "It looks like we've got our work cut out for us. Let's show these Zelians what humanity is made of." But even as she spoke the words, Mira couldn't shake the feeling that they were in over their heads. The Zelians' technology was beyond anything they had ever encountered, and their dismissive attitude towards humanity boded ill for any attempts at diplomacy. Still, they had to try. The future of the human race could depend on it. As the Odyssey moved closer to the alien structure, Mira steeled herself for the challenges ahead. One way or another, this first contact would change the course of history. She could only hope that humanity would be ready for what came next. The Zelian enigma. As the shuttle docked with the Zelian structure, Captain Mira Patel couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The alien architecture was unlike anything she had ever seen, all flowing lines and shimmering surfaces that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Beside her, Dr. Liam O'Connor was practically vibrating with excitement. Can you imagine the technology it must have taken to build this? He said, his eyes wide. The materials alone are beyond anything we've ever encountered. Mira nodded, trying to stay focused on the mission at hand. She, Dr. O'Connor, and a small team of specialists had been granted permission to come aboard the Zelian structure, ostensibly as a diplomatic gesture. But Mira knew that the real reason was to gather as much intelligence as possible about the aliens and their capabilities. As they disembarked from the shuttle, they were greeted by a trio of Zelians, their silver skin glinting under the strange, diffuse light of the structure's interior. One of them, taller than the others and with more intricate patterns swirling in its eyes, stepped forward. "Welcome, humans," it said, its multi-toned voice echoing in the cavernous space. "I am Zelax, the overseer of this installation. We have prepared a tour for you to showcase some of our technological marvels." Mira inclined her head in acknowledgement. "Thank you, Overseer Zelax. We are honored by your hospitality." As they followed the Zelians deeper into the structure, Mira couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The walls seemed to pulse with hidden energy, and strange symbols flickered in and out of existence on the surfaces. Dr. O'Connor, meanwhile, was in his element. He peppered the Zelians with questions about their technology, his eyes alight with curiosity. Zelax answered some of his queries, but remained maddeningly vague on the specifics. "Your ship," the alien said at one point, gesturing to a holographic display of the Odyssey. "Its propulsion system is primitive, inefficient. We long ago mastered the art of manipulating the fabric of spacetime itself." Dr. O'Connor leaned forward eagerly. "Could you explain more about how that works? We've theorized about higher dimensional physics, but we've never been able to achieve anything close to what you're describing." Zelax made a dismissive gesture. "The details would be beyond your comprehension. Suffice it to say that we have transcended the limitations of your three-dimensional thinking." As the tour continued, Mira grew increasingly uneasy. The Zelians seemed to be going out of their way to emphasize their superiority, to make humanity feel small and insignificant in comparison. It was a tactic she recognized from her diplomatic training, a way to assert dominance and control the narrative. But there was something else too, a hint of something deeper beneath the surface of the Zelians' condescension, a flicker of fear, perhaps, or uncertainty. It wasn't until they reached the central chamber of the structure that Mira began to understand why. There, suspended in a shimmering field of energy, was a pulsing, swirling vortex of light and color unlike anything she had ever seen. "Behold," Zelax said, its voice reverent, "the heart of our installation, the source of our power and knowledge." Dr. O'Connor stepped forward, his eyes wide with wonder. "What is it?" he breathed. Zelax hesitated for a moment before answering. "We call it the Nexus," it said at last. "It is a conduit to dimensions beyond your understanding, a gateway to realms of pure energy and thought." Mira felt a chill run down her spine at the alien's words. The Nexus was unlike any technology she had ever encountered, and the idea of dimensions beyond human understanding was both thrilling and terrifying. As she watched, Dr. O'Connor moved closer to the swirling vortex, his hand outstretched as if to touch it. Zelax made a sharp gesture, and the scientist stumbled back, a look of shock on his face. "Do not approach the Nexus," the alien said, its voice harsh. "It is not for mortal minds to comprehend." But even as it spoke, Mira caught a flicker of something in Zelax's swirling eyes, a hint of uncertainty, of fear. And in that moment, she knew that the Zelians' mastery of higher dimensional physics was not as complete as they claimed. There was something else going on here, something that the aliens were not telling them. And Mira was determined to find out what it was. As the tour concluded and they returned to the shuttle, Mira's mind was racing with possibilities. The Zelians' technology was beyond anything humanity had ever encountered, but it was clear that they were not as all-powerful as they claimed. There were cracks in their facade, weaknesses that could be exploited. And if humanity was going to have any hope of surviving in a universe dominated by the Zelians, they would need to find a way to level the playing field. The key, Mira suspected, lay in the Nexus, the swirling vortex of energy that the Zelian seemed to both revere and fear. If they could find a way to understand it, to harness its power. But that was a problem for another day. For now, Mira had to focus on the immediate challenges ahead. The Zelians had made it clear that they saw humanity as little more than primitive savages, barely worthy of their attention. It would be up to her and her crew to prove them wrong, to show that humanity was more than just a backwater species, that they had the ingenuity and determination to stand alongside the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but Mira was ready for the challenge. She had trained her whole life for this moment, and she was not about to back down now. As the shuttle docked with the Odyssey and the crew prepared to debrief, Mira allowed herself a small smile. The Zelians might have the advantage for now, but they had no idea what humanity was truly capable of. And she was going to make sure they found out, one way or another. Project Hyperion. In the weeks following their encounter with the Zelians, the crew of the Odyssey worked tirelessly to unravel the secrets of the alien technology. Dr. Liam O'Connor and his team pored over the data they had collected, trying to make sense of the strange readings and energy signatures. But progress was slow. The Zelian technology was so far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered that even the brightest minds on the Odyssey struggled to comprehend it. Captain Mira Puttel, meanwhile, found herself grappling with the political fallout of their mission. The United Nations was eager for results, pressuring her to provide tangible evidence of the Zelians' capabilities and the potential benefits to humanity. But Mira was reluctant to share too much too soon. She knew that the knowledge they had gained was dangerous, that it could upset the delicate balance of power on Earth and beyond. As the pressure mounted, Mira found herself turning to an unlikely ally, Dr. Amara Singh, the Odyssey's chief engineer. Amara had been working on a secret project, one that she believed could be the key to unlocking the Zelians' technology. It's called Project Hyperion, Amara explained, her eyes alight with excitement. I've been studying the data from the Nexus, trying to reverse engineer the principles behind it. Mira leaned forward, intrigued. And what have you found? Amara grinned. I think I've figured out how the Zelians manipulate higher dimensions. It's all about resonance frequencies and quantum entanglement. She brought up a holographic display showing a complex web of equations and diagrams. If we can build a device that can generate these frequencies, we should be able to create our own version of the Nexus, a gateway to other dimensions. Mira felt a thrill of excitement at the idea, but she also knew the risks. This is dangerous territory, Amara, she warned. We have no idea what we might be unleashing. Amara nodded, her expression serious. I know, but we can't let the Zelians have all the power. We need to level the playing field. Mira hesitated for a long moment before making her decision. All right, she said at last. Let's do it. But we keep this between us for now. No one else can know. As Project Hyperion took shape in a secret lab deep within the Odyssey, Mira threw herself into the diplomatic side of things. She met with the leaders of the United Nations, carefully sharing just enough information to keep them satisfied while holding back the true extent of their discoveries. But even as she played the political game, Mira couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The Zelians had made it clear that they saw humanity as little more than primitive savages, and she knew that they would not hesitate to swat the Odyssey like a fly if they perceived them as a threat. Their only hope was to master the Zelian technology before it was too late. And so, as the weeks turned into months, the Odyssey's crew worked around the clock, pushing themselves to the brink of exhaustion in their quest for knowledge. Dr. O'Connor and his team made breakthrough after breakthrough, unraveling the secrets of quantum entanglement and higher dimensional physics. But it was Amara's work on Project Hyperion that truly captured Mira's imagination. The device was unlike anything she had ever seen, a swirling vortex of energy contained within a shimmering force field. When activated, it seemed to warp the very fabric of space-time, creating a gateway to realms beyond human understanding. But as they prepared to test the device for the first time, Mira couldn't shake the sense of unease that had been growing within her. The Zelians had warned them about the dangers of meddling with forces beyond their comprehension, and she knew that they were treading on thin ice. Still, they had come too far to turn back now. And so, with a deep breath and a nod to Amara, Mira gave the order to activate the Hyperion device. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The vortex swirled and pulsed, but remained contained within its force field. But then, with a sudden surge of energy, the device burst to life, flooding the lab with a blinding light. Mira shielded her eyes, her heart pounding in her chest. When the light faded, she lowered her hand and gasped at what she saw. The Hyperion device had torn a hole in the fabric of reality itself, creating a shimmering portal to another dimension. And through that portal, she could see the stars themselves, stretched and distorted in ways that defied comprehension. "We did it," Amara breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "We actually did it." But even as they celebrated their triumph, Mira couldn't shake the feeling that they had opened a Pandora's box. The power they had unleashed was beyond anything humanity had ever known, and she knew that it would change the course of their species forever. For better or for worse, the age of higher dimensional travel had begun, and the crew of the Odyssey would be at the forefront of this brave new era, exploring the uncharted realms beyond the stars. But first, they would have to face the consequences of their actions, and as Mira stared into the swirling depths of the portal, she knew that those consequences would be beyond anything they could possibly imagine, beyond the Nexus. As the shimmering portal stabilized, Captain Mira Potel stared into its swirling depths with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. This was it, the moment they had been working towards for months. The chance to explore the uncharted realms beyond the stars, to see what lay beyond the veil of normal space-time. She turned to her crew, seeing the same mix of emotions reflected in their faces. Dr. Liam O'Connor, his eyes wide with wonder. Dr. Amara Singh, her lips pursed with determination. And the rest of the Odyssey's brave men and women, ready to follow their captain into the unknown. "All right, people," Mira said, her voice steady. "We've trained for this. We've prepared for every possibility. But I won't lie to you. Where we're going, there'll be dragons." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But we're the crew of the Odyssey. We don't run from dragons. We seek them out, and we learn their secrets. And that's exactly what we're going to do." With a nod to Amara, Mira stepped forward, her hand outstretched. The portal seemed to shimmer and pulse in response, as if it were alive. And then, with a deep breath, she stepped through. For a moment, there was nothing but a blinding light and a sense of disorientation. But then, as her vision cleared, Mira found herself standing on an alien landscape unlike anything she had ever seen. The sky above was a swirling maelstrom of color, with hues that seemed to shift and change before her eyes. The ground beneath her feet was a crystalline surface that pulsed with inner light, casting eerie shadows across the landscape. And in the distance, towering structures rose into the sky, their geometry twisted and warped in ways that defied comprehension. It was like something out of a fever dream, a world beyond the realm of human understanding. As the rest of the crew emerged from the portal behind her, Mira heard their gasps of wonder and disbelief. But there was no time to take in the sights. They had a mission to complete, and every second counted. "All right, people," Mira said, her voice cutting through the eerie silence. "Let's get to work. Dr. O'Connor, I want you to take samples of everything you can find. Dr. Singh, see if you can get any readings on those structures. The rest of you, fan out and explore, but stay within visual range of the portal. We don't know what kind of dangers might be lurking out there." As the crew set to work, Mira couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The hair on the back of her neck stood on end, and she found herself constantly scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. And then, just as she was about to call the team back to the portal, she saw it. A flicker of movement in the distance, a shimmer of light that seemed to dance across the crystalline landscape. At first, she thought it was just a trick of the light, but as she watched, the shimmer grew closer, resolving into a shape that made her heart skip a beat. It was a Zelian, or at least something that resembled one. But it was unlike any Zelian she had ever seen. Its skin was translucent, revealing a network of pulsing energy beneath the surface, and its eyes, instead of the swirling colors she had come to associate with the alien species, were a deep, inky black that seemed to absorb all light. The creature approached the crew with a fluid grace that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Mira found herself reaching for her sidearm, her fingers tightening around the grip. But before she could react, the creature spoke, its voice a resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through her very bones. "Welcome, travelers from beyond the veil," it said, its words echoing strangely in the air. "You have ventured far, to realms few have ever seen, but know that you tread on dangerous ground, and that the secrets you seek come with a price." Mira swallowed hard, forcing herself to meet the creature's gaze. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice sounding small and insignificant in the vastness of this alien realm. The creature tilted its head, as if considering her question. "I am a guardian of the Nexus," it said at last. "A keeper of the pathways between worlds. And you, Captain Mira Putel, have opened a door that was meant to remain closed." Mira felt a chill run down her spine at the mention of her name. How did this creature know who she was? And what did it mean about opening a door? But before she could ask, the creature continued, its voice taking on a note of urgency. "The Zelians, in their arrogance, have tampered with forces beyond their understanding. They seek to harness the power of the Nexus for their own ends, but they do not realize the danger they pose to all of existence." Mira's mind raced with the implications of the creature's words. If the Zelians were tampering with the fabric of reality itself, the consequences could be catastrophic. But what could they do to stop them? As if sensing her thoughts, the creature spoke again. "You have the power to stop them, Captain Putel. The device you have created, the Hyperion, is the key. But you must act quickly, before it is too late." With a final cryptic nod, the creature shimmered and vanished, leaving Mira and her crew alone on the alien landscape. For a long moment, no one spoke, each of them trying to process what they had just witnessed. But Mira knew that they couldn't afford to waste any more time. The fate of the galaxy, perhaps even the universe itself, rested on their shoulders, and they would need every ounce of courage and determination to see their mission through. "All right, people," she said, her voice filled with a new sense of purpose. "Let's get back to the ship. We have work to do." As the crew stepped back through the portal, Mira took one last look at the alien landscape, her heart filled with a strange mix of wonder and dread. They had ventured beyond the boundaries of human knowledge, and what they had found that would change the course of history forever. But first, they had a galaxy to save, the heart of the Nexus. Captain Mira Putel stared at the holographic display, her brow furrowed in concentration. In the days since their encounter with the Guardian of the Nexus, the crew of the Odyssey had been working around the clock to unravel the secrets of the alien realm. But the more they learned, the more daunting their task seemed. The Nexus, it turned out, was more than just a gateway to other dimensions. It was a vast network of energy that underlaid the very fabric of the universe itself, a cosmic web that connected all things. And if the Zelians succeeded in their plan to harness its power, the consequences would be catastrophic. They would have the ability to reshape reality itself, to bend the laws of physics to their will. Mira shuddered at the thought. She had seen firsthand the arrogance and cruelty of the Zelians, and the idea of them wielding such godlike power was terrifying. But how could they stop them? The Guardian's words echoed in her mind. "The device you have created, the Hyperion, is the key." But what did that mean? How could their fledgling technology stand against the might of the Zelian Empire? As if sensing her thoughts, Dr. Amorising spoke up. "I think I might have something," she said, her voice tight with excitement. Mira turned to face her, hope flaring in her chest. "What is it?" Imara brought up a new display, showing a complex web of energy signatures and quantum fluctuations. "I've been analyzing the data we collected from the Nexus," she said, "and I think I found a way to use a Hyperion to disrupt the Zelian's plans." She pointed to a glowing node in the center of the display. "This is the heart of the Nexus," she said, "the point where all the pathways converge. If we can use the Hyperion to create a resonance cascade at this exact frequency, it should create a feedback loop that will destabilize the entire network." Mira's eyes widened as she took in the implications. "So we could shut down the Nexus entirely, cut off the Zelian's access to its power." Imara nodded, her face grim. "In theory, yes, but it's not without risks. The amount of energy required would be enormous. And if we get it wrong..." She trailed off, letting the unspoken consequences hang in the air. Mira understood all too well. If they failed, they wouldn't just be risking their own lives. They would be putting the entire galaxy in jeopardy. But what choice did they have? The Zelians were moving forward with their plan every second they delayed, and time was running out. Mira squared her shoulders, feeling the weight of command settling over her like a mantle. "All right," she said. "Let's do it. But we need to be smart about this. We can't just go charging in without a plan." Over the next few hours, the crew of the Odyssey put together a daring strategy. They would use the Hyperion to open a portal directly to the heart of the Nexus, bypassing the Zelian defenses. Once there, they would deploy a resonance cascade bomb, designed to create the precise frequency needed to destabilize the network. It was a desperate plan, filled with risks and uncertainties, but it was the only chance they had. As the Odyssey prepared to make the jump, Mira found herself in her quarters, staring out at the stars. She thought of all the people counting on them, all the lives that hung in the balance, and she thought of the sacrifice she might be called upon to make, the price she might have to pay for the greater good. But she also thought of her crew, the brave men and women who had followed her into the unknown. They were more than just her subordinates. They were her family, and she would do whatever it took to keep them safe. With a final steadying breath, Mira made her way to the bridge. The crew was already in position, their faces set with determination. Dr. O'Connor at the sensors, ready to guide them through the treacherous pathways of the Nexus. Dr. Singh at the Hyperion controls, her fingers poised over the activation sequence. And the rest of the crew, each at their stations, ready to give their all for the mission. Mira took her seat in the captain's chair, feeling the weight of the moment settling over her. This was it, the point of no return. Whatever happened next would determine the fate of the galaxy itself. "All right, people," she said, her voice steady. "Let's do this. Engage the Hyperion drive." The ship shuddered as the device came to life, the swirling vortex of the portal opening before them. And then, with a lurch that seemed to rearrange the very atoms of their beings, they were through. The heart of the Nexus was a maelstrom of energy, a churning sea of light and shadow that threatened to overwhelm them at every turn. But Dr. O'Connor's deft guidance and Dr. Singh's steady hand on the controls kept them on course, weaving through the chaos with a precision that bordered on the miraculous. And then, at last, they were there. The resonance cascade bomb was armed and ready, the countdown ticking away on the display. All they had to do was detonate it, and then ride the shockwave back out to normal space. But even as Mira's finger hovered over the detonation button, a cold dread washed over her. Something was wrong, a nagging sense of doubt that she couldn't shake. And then, with a sickening lurch, she understood. The Zelians had known they were coming. They had laid a trap, a cunning snare woven into the very fabric of the Nexus itself, and like fools, they had stumbled right into it. Alarms blared as the ship shuddered and bucked, caught in the grip of forces beyond their comprehension. Consoles sparked and smoked, the acrid scent of burning electronics filling the air. Through the chaos, Mira could hear Dr. Singh's desperate shouts, her once steady voice now ragged with fear. "The resonance cascade. It's not working. The feedback loop is. It's reversing on us." And then, with a final terrible surge of energy, the heart of the Nexus erupted into a cataclysmic explosion, a blinding flash that seared itself into Mira's very soul. She felt the ship spinning out of control, the metal groaning and shrieking around her as it tore itself apart. And as the darkness closed in, Mira's last thought was one of grim determination. They had failed, and now the galaxy would pay the price. But they had also learned the truth, a terrible secret that could yet be the key to stopping the Zelians once and for all. If only they survived long enough to use it. For all of humanity, Captain Mira Potel clung to consciousness, her vision blurred and her head pounding. Around her, the shattered remnants of the Odyssey drifted through the eerie calm at the heart of the Nexus, the once proud ship reduced to little more than a collection of twisted metal and flickering lights. But even as despair threatened to overwhelm her, Mira forced herself to focus. Her crew needed her now more than ever, and she would not let them down. With a groan of effort, she pulled herself to the comm panel, her fingers leaving bloody streaks on the controls. "This is the captain," she said, her voice ragged but determined. "All hands report in." One by one, the survivors checked in. Dr. Liam O'Connor, his face grim but resolute. Dr. Amara Singh, her eyes haunted but her voice steady. And a handful of others, battered and bruised, but still alive. They gathered in the ruined remnants of the bridge, huddled together amid the sparking wreckage. And as Mira looked into their faces, she saw the same determination that burned within her own heart. They had lost friends and colleagues, and their ship was all but destroyed. But they were still here, still fighting. And as long as even one of them drew breath, the Zelians would not win. "All right, people," Mira said, her voice filled with a fierce resolve. "We've had our teeth kicked in, but we're not done yet. We know the truth now, and that gives us an advantage." She brought up a flickering hologram, the ghostly image of the Nexus pulsing before them. "The Zelians are parasites," she said. "They're not harnessing the power of the Nexus, they're feeding off it, draining its energy to fuel their own twisted ambitions." Dr. Singh nodded, her face lit by the eerie glow. "And in doing so, they're weakening the very fabric of reality itself," she said softly. "If they're not stopped." Mira finished the thought, her voice grim. "Everything ends. Not just the Zelians, not just the galaxy, everything." A heavy silence fell over the group as they absorbed the enormity of the situation. But Mira refused to let despair take hold. They had a job to do, and she would see it through to the end. "Luckily for us, their little trap gave me an idea," she said, a faint smile playing across her face. "They used the Nexus against us, turned our own resonance cascade back on itself. But what if we could do the same to them?" Dr. O'Connor leaned forward, his eyes narrowed in thought. "A counter-resonance," he said slowly, "tuned to their specific frequency. It could disrupt their connection to the Nexus, sever their parasitic hold." Mira nodded, a fierce light in her eyes. "Exactly. They underestimated us once. Let's show them what a mistake that was." What followed was a desperate scramble as the surviving crew raced against time. Using the wreckage of the Odyssey's systems, they cobbled together a makeshift device, a jury-rigged assemblage of Hyperion technology, and salvaged Zelian components. It was a long shot, a last-ditch effort born of desperation and sheer human ingenuity, but it was also their only chance. As the final components slid into place, Dr. Singh looked up, her face drawn but determined. "It's ready," she said quietly. "Now we just need to get it into position." Mira nodded, her jaw set. "Leave that to me," she said. "The rest of you get to the escape pods. If this doesn't work..." She left the thought unfinished, but they all understood. If the device failed, if the Zelians triumphed, then all was lost. But at least some of them might survive to carry on the fight. One by one, the crew clasped hands or embraced, a final moment of solidarity in the face of annihilation. And then they were gone, racing towards the pods and whatever faint hope of survival remained. Mira stood alone on the ruined bridge, the makeshift device cradled in her arms. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. And then, with a final defiant cry, she activated the Hyperion drive one last time. Reality rippled and twisted around her as the counter-resonance pulsed outward, a shimmering wave of disruptive energy that tore through the heart of the Nexus like a thunderbolt. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The calm at the center of the cosmic storm remained unbroken, the Zelian machines pulsing with stolen power. But then, with a shuddering groan that seemed to come from the depths of the universe itself, the parasitic bond shattered. The Zelian devices spasmed and writhed, their systems overloading as the counter-resonance tore through them like a virus. And at the heart of it all, Mira stood tall, her eyes blazing with triumph, even as the feedback surged through her own body. She had done it. Against all odds, against the might of an empire that spanned the stars, she and her crew had emerged victorious. But even as the realization washed over her, Mira felt a strange sense of peace descending. The pain of her injuries faded away, replaced by a warmth that suffused her entire being. And as the light grew brighter, as the heart of the Nexus opened up to embrace her, Mira finally understood. This was her destiny, the role she had been born to play. Not just a captain, not just an explorer, but a guardian, a protector of all that was and all that would ever be. With a final contented smile, Captain Mira Patel, the savior of the galaxy, stepped into the light and became one with the cosmos. Her story had ended, but her legend would endure for all time. A shining beacon of hope and courage in a universe that would never forget the name of the Odyssey and the heroes who had given everything to defend it. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed. The Zelian Empire, weakened and humbled by their defeat, retreated to their own borders. New alliances were forged, built on a foundation of shared sacrifice and hard-won trust. And from the ashes of the old order, a new era of peace and prosperity bloomed. Monuments were raised to the crew of the Odyssey, their likenesses enshrined in the hearts of 1,000,000,000 worlds. Children were taught their story in hushed tones of awe, and their names became legends whispered in the depths of space. Dr. Liam O'Connor, the brilliant scientist who had unraveled the secrets of the Nexus. Dr. Amara Singh, the fearless engineer who had built the weapon that saved the galaxy. And Captain Mira Patel, the indomitable leader who had brought them all together and led them to victory against impossible odds. They were gone now, but their legacy endured. A reminder to all who came after of the power of courage, the strength of unity, and the indomitable spirit of the human race. And somewhere, in a realm beyond the understanding of mortal minds, Mira smiled. Her journey had reached its end, but the adventure of humanity was only just beginning.